Welcome to ITV Go, Simi Arora. It's great to have you here with us.
Thank you very much for having me today on the show.
Of course, so much to discuss with you today. We are talking about mental health and wellness and so much more. And what a topic to discuss during this pandemic. So just starting this interview with you, resting right into the concepts, right into what we need to do to make ourselves feel better and possibly happier during this time period. How important do you think mental health, its awareness, and its management is during this time period? And when you work with your clients, Simi, what have you seen as some of the most common problems that they are facing or they're struggling with during this time period of COVID-19?
Thank you, Aditi, for asking this major important question. And, we've been reading a lot about what's happening in the world, what's happening with a lot of suicides, which is happening. I think there's a news today as well with an Indian Kannada celebrity committing suicide who's 30 years old, and he was a fitness expert. For a long period of time, we have been told that if you are physically fit, then everything is okay.
Yeah.
Then, you're going to have a great life. You are, you come across as a very sensible and composed and mentally strong person. But now these myths are also being broken, because we can absolutely see that people who have a lot of money in their bank accounts, people who are physically really fit and who are able to actually create opportunities and money for themselves, can also get into mental health issues and can succumb to depressions and ultimately can also kill themselves. So it is one of the most important things for us to really ponder upon,
Yeah.
because when there's a physical wound, we go about doing everything possible to make ourselves okay. But
Right.
majority of us are not even taking into account our mental health, which is probably even the most important thing. Keep in mind the globalization and too much of information influx and all the challenges that we are going through in our lives, especially during this COVID-19 time when things have changed for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
just to add here a little bit, I personally had been diagnosed with anxiety disorder and depression back in 2013, when I came to this country. And after a short marriage, I got divorced. And due to this turmoil of emotional conflict, guilt, shame, social setbacks and stuff, I went into tremendous amount of mental health issues, including panic attacks. So I see this problem as to be very realistic, and it can happen to people who are very strong-willed people, who are very aggressive in life, and who really are talented. So
Yeah.
there are no such specific criterias for you to be a mental health patient. Anybody
Yes.
can get into that if there is a challenging situation or they're not able to handle themselves emotionally. So
Let's t-
what we really need to address this issue as to
yeah.
be something similar to what we understand other illnesses as to be, and not a taboo.
Yeah. Let's talk about anxiety, because right now in the COVID-19 time period, anxiety, fear, panic is something that we've seen across the nation. And it's something that's impacting people, communities of all color. What do you say to people that are experiencing anxiety and they're trying to deal with what's happening around them right now with COVID-19? What perhaps should they do to work on it?
Well, first of all, we need to understand what is the root cause of anxiety, because anxiety itself is not a disease, it's a symptom. It is telling you that you need to pay attention more towards your emotional health. It is telling you that there are some things that probably you need to take an action towards, and you are trapping yourself into those unnecessary emotional conflicts or the past experiences which have had this tremendous impact on your system. But now, because your body is experiencing anxiety in form of its manifestation, probably, uh, sort of like headaches or digestive issues or heart palpitations, which is normally happening with all the people who go through anxiety. So, not distracting yourself from the anxiety and just popping a pill or just going to a psychiatrist and taking medication, which is extremely important. We're going to get into that in a little bit of detail. But most important thing is to understand what is causing me this. Why am I experiencing the anxiety. And then we go back to our thoughts, we go back to our beliefs, because some of these thoughts are really the hindrances, because the way we think and the way our mind works is what we actually experience in our body and in our life.
Yeah, you are a life coach and you're also a yoga teacher. What kind of techniques or perhaps routine can somebody establish to work on their anxiety, especially that's driven because of this pandemic, according to you?
Sure. So first thing first is that we need to accept that this has happened and it wasn't something that we were anticipating. And when a sudden change like this happens, where people have lost jobs, where people are making way lesser money than before, where there's a lot of uncertainty, there are so many thousands of people who have died in the last a few months. So obviously, the whole energy of the system of this country has gone down. And what we really need to do is to create less resistance and more acceptance that this has happened. And it also shows us that anything and everything outside of us is impermanent in nature, and we cannot control everything. So when we come to terms with this truth that we need to accept things the way they are, it reduces the pressure for us to be in a certain way, and it brings about this wisdom in our being. That's number first. Number two is that practicing detachment every day for at least 20-30 minutes, which really means sitting down with yourself and noticing the present moment, just being here in the present, being with yourself. It could be doing meditation or yoga or journaling or gratitude practice, but just being in the moment and acknowledging what is life as is really important. And most of our minds live either in the past or in the future. And third, to elaborate a little bit more on the gratitude, before you go to bed, write down 3 things that you're thankful for every day. Because if you actually look around, you'll find so many things that are still so right in your life that you're blessed with. It could be your family, it could be food on the table, it could be all the beautiful experiences you're still able to have in your life. So gratitude is antidote to all the stress in our lives.
Let's talk about this one theme that I saw on your website and something that you often talk about, the conscious mind, or perhaps the wise mind. Could you give us an insight into how to develop that and how to sort of use it during this time period?
Sure. See, one of the things that we have missed in our education system, or pretty much I would say in the whole world education system, is that we've been told a lot about how to be successful in external life, what kind of jobs you need to do to be making more money. But we're never taught about how to really use the faculty of our body and mind in such a way that we create this inner harmony and more about like inside out success. Because if you're internally feeling all right, you're going to go out in the world and do whatever it is required for you to do. But if you are externally looking really sharp and good, but internally you don't even know how to handle yourself, it's not a successful life. So when we say the conscious living or the conscious mind, what we're really saying is that I am not on autopilot. I am not only dependent on the emotional experiences that I'm having, which is probably linked to what happened in my childhood, or probably linked to my last breakup, or probably linked to my last divorce. But it is based on where I really want to go. And just simplifying life and saying that, it's not about accomplishment and achievements all the time. It's about experiences. Because if you really ask yourself, even if you want to have $1 million in your account, if you want to be CEO of a company, what it really means is that you want to have an experience of impacting, of creating more influence. So in order for us to go to those experiences and also have the inner harmony, we need to be in the conscious mind. We need to have the conscious living experiences, which is not based on the past, but in the present, what we can really do about the situation or create more opportunities for us.
Just discussing the conscious mind, its impact, and a lot more. If we were to discuss the concept of grief and sadness, which is impacting communities nationwide right now. There has been so much grief, so much life has been lost in the nation. How do you suppose we deal with grief and sadness? And, and I'm not talking about somebody who has lost somebody, because obviously their grief is a lot more intense. But I'm talking about people that are getting impacted by what's happening in the world. and are grieving over it?
Yes, here it's a really sensible and very important question. Negativity feeds negativity. What has happened around this time is because we have a lot of information coming from a lot of different sources. So what happens is that our brain, which is evolved to be a defensive operating system, and its job is to protect us from threats or from something that can go wrong in our lives.
Right.
What happens is brain's job is to protect you, and hence it pays more attention to negativity than to the positivity. And though it's a great thing for us, because if I'm touching a hot device, I know the next time I'm not supposed to touch it because I'll burn my hand. But psychologically, it does harm us a little bit as well if we are not conscious. Because once we pay more attention to the negativity, we start to release the chemicals in the brain, from the brain to the body, the chemicals of cortisol and stressful hormones in the system, which starts to manifest and start to make you feel more of those emotions that are linked to the thoughts that you're already creating. So if I'm creating a thought of fear, what's going to happen is my brain will start to respond to that emotion by secreting those chemicals in the body, and then body will start to manifest the fear, and then eventually will again send the signal back to the brain to release more of those chemicals. And this is like a vicious cycle. And when we talk about the sadness and grief, now this was a scientific thing, what happens in the body, but what we can really do is that, first of all, understand, as I said before, life as is, and accepting it the way is very important. And also knowing that when I am in the present or when I am conscious, then I can still do something right now, maybe a small little action that is going to help me get the results that are going to make me happier or more fulfilled, or maybe create a little bit more opportunity for me to do something with my life right now, because right now I'm alive, I'm not dead yet.
Yeah.
And also reducing the intake of the content that we watch every day and becoming conscious about it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be watching news or shouldn't be aware of what's going on around the world, but consciously decompressing ourselves and watching the content which is also going to add value in you or make you happier or make you more creative. So, making the choices in our daily life and spending the time of being aware, of being self-aware, and consciously spending the time and energy into something which is going to make me wiser, creative, happier, and fulfilled is what is going to help us with all the sadness that we can experience.
What would you say to someone who has lost a loved one? Because that is the story of millions of people right now. Pretty much everybody knows somebody that has been affected by COVID.
Well, it is unimaginable to experience someone's pain who have lost a loved one, and it is very unfortunate and very sad experience of life. And what I can say to them is that acceptance of someone's life or a life being born or dead is something that is not in our control. And what we can do is to allow our hearts to heal and have the enlargement, or I would say the compassion towards other beings who are still there on the planet, and something that we can do to make a difference in their lives. Because it's very simple phenomena that I've seen, that people who go through cancer or people who go through mental health issues, they suddenly have a lot of compassion for other people who are going through the same problems. And this is how life teaches us to be more compassionate. So when someone loses a loved one, they can really understand the value of life and how they can come forward and help in healing other people as well. So first, their own healing has to happen, which comes with acceptance, with time, and with letting go and embracing the goodness of that life which was around them. And secondly, extending that love and warmth and compassion to others. That's going to help them heal.
You often talk about being emotionally fulfilled or living a life with purpose. If I was to ask you, how should we practice this right now, especially right now, what would you say?
Well, there are many factors to get to the place of emotional fulfillment. And most important thing that I always say is that finding the purpose in pain, finding the purpose in challenge. There is no being that I've come across. I mean, I've been talking to thousands of people through my online programs, through workshops, one-on-one coaching. I haven't seen a single person who can come and tell me that, oh, I never had a challenge or I never had a problem. Now, this is obvious that we're going to have problems, we're going to have challenges, because this is how we evolve and grow in life. So looking at those challenges as not as the problems and contract ourselves, but in fact, look at those problems and turn them into a challenge, which is going to allow them to expand their consciousness. And looking at those pain points and suffering as purpose-driven phenomena, is that if my pain happened in my life, then it is here for my growth. It happened for me to evolve and become a better person. So finding the purpose in the pain is going to help us look at the better side, the brighter side of the whole picture, and then slowly take the steps towards your heart-aligned desires, something that you really, really want to experience in your life. And knowing that mortality is not a curse, it's a blessing, because if we are here forever, we'll never take the necessary action at the right time. Yeah. So if I have 70 years to live, it's a good thing, because now I'm going to do something to make more meaning and fulfillment in my life. So looking at the timeline is also important for us to take action.
So while we're discussing so many techniques and a bunch of ideas that people can implement in their lives, what really, strikes my attention is the fact that we in the South Asian American community, or just the South Asian community, often do not discuss these concepts. And, there's always a conversation about people struggling in silence. Two-part question: how do you sort of combat the taboo that's related to mental health or wellness in the South Asian community? And second, if somebody is suffering in silence, what do you say to them?
Very powerful question and very important question. I believe its South Asian community as such comes from a land of the pure divinity, pure spirituality. And we belong to a culture which is based on the truths of fundamentals of our life. In fact, if you actually see, the whole West has gone to India to understand more about the truth of life and the basis of living our lives, and what are the right types of wisdom or meditation or the yoga practices that we need to be implementing in our lives. So what I believe is that, when sometimes we take our own culture for granted, and we believe that, oh, maybe something else, which is a quick fix, is going to be a better remedy, then we start to lose, the connection with that truth, with that powerful culture. And, when we talk specifically about the mental health, people now are starting to understand that it is something similar to having diabetes. It is absolutely normal to have mental health issues, and they do come from a lot of different reasons. Like, some people can have childhood abuse. Some people grow up in domestic violence situations. Some children get raped and molested when they are kids, and their brain is impacted with that emotional experience so much that when they grow up, they tend to become more fearful of life. And the chemicals that are being released in the brain, or the neural wiring, or the neural structure, which is established because of something happened in the past, can put that person more exposed or more prone to anxiety. So it is very similar. Like, if you're eating hamburgers every day, then you are more prone to diabetes. So same is the case with our mental health. And I think this is something we need to be talking more openly. And this is how my journey started. In 2013, I was prescribed antidepressants. I took them for a couple of years, but along with that, I had my holistic journey of really understanding how does my mind operate, or what kind of trauma do I have in my background which is causing me to feel this way. And anxiety medications such as antidepressants are really helpful. So your second question is, if somebody is experiencing it, my hand-folded request and urge is to please take medical support. There are enough psychiatrists, or psychologists in our country and in America and everywhere in the world now, where you can go and talk to them about what's going on and take medication if necessary. Medication can be really helpful in the beginning, and once you start to feel a little stable, then you can apply holistic healing tools. Because when you are having a panic attack, and if I'll tell you to meditate, you're not going to be able to meditate because your body is completely out of the order. So you need to bring the body into stability. So now you can apply the meditation or yoga or different types of other holistic measures which are going to help you heal inside out. So medication is extremely important. I have taken it for 2.5, 3 years straight, and I'm saying it openly to the public who are watching me. So there's no harm in taking medication. So please do that if you're experiencing any sort of restlessness, anxiety, lack of sleep, or sort of fearful and negative thoughts in your experience.
You know, I have you here for a couple of minutes now. I would really like to take this part of the program and just focus on techniques and tips that you're able to share with our viewers to deal with stress, to deal with anxiety, to deal with any kind of fear or panic they might be experiencing, or perhaps to just work on having a more calmer mindset. I would love for you to discuss certain tips or techniques that we could use.
Sure. So there are a few tips that we can apply right away. And before that, I will certainly tell you one thing. Why do I personally focus a lot more on wisdom? Is because, you know, if you actually go on the Google and write down tips to calm my mind, you're going to find a million tips to calm your mind, because Google is a source of information for us. The problem is that we do not apply them. And that's where the issue is, that we know everything. We have the knowledge, we have the tools, but we do not apply them. So that's the reason why I focus a lot on the mindset, because once we have the self-leadership habits, then we are able to put in the self-care tools as well. But if we do not have the ability to apply them in our lives, we're not going to see the results. So that's the reason why my focus is more towards building that self-leadership abilities in ourselves. So first thing first, habits. We need to pay attention to our habits. What type of habits do I have? How many hours do I sleep? Do I take care of my diet? Am I concerned about my self-care? So number one thing you can do about to make this a habit is that when you are brushing your teeth, look into the mirror and say to yourself, what am I going to do today to take care of my mental hygiene? Remind yourself, what am I going to do today to take care of my mental hygiene? While you are doing dental, think mental. So remind yourself. And then you might say that, oh, okay, I probably will go for a walk for 30 minutes. And by the way, which is the second point, get out of the house every day for 30 minutes to an hour and spend time with nature. When we are with the nature, we are with life itself. Pay attention to life. Pay attention to the trees and the plants and beauty all around you. Because 5,000 years ago, even 3,000 years ago, we were the cavemen. We were not living in the life of transactions. We were just lingering around and having fun. So become that caveman for at least 30 minutes to 1 hour every day. And last, when you go to the bed, please decompress. Have an unwinding schedule. You might be working for 10 hours straight. That's okay. But before you go to bed, spend at least 30 minutes to 1 hour decompressing yourself. This might include journaling, meditating, watching something as a conscious content watching, where I recommend documentaries or something that you really like to explore, which is taking your mind away from this nonstop chatter and overthinking or the burdens of the whole day that you're carrying along. And also gratitude. Please be thankful for all that you have. Gratitude creates this amazing brain chemistry, which is one of the best ways to start to feel better instantly. Because when we're truly feeling blessed and we're folding our hands and we're thankful for the experience of life, then automatically you are feeling uplifted. You're having brain and heart harmony. And that's the place where we actually start to feel so much connected with our life, because once we have the feeling of gratitude, we are aligned with life. We're looking forward to life. And nothing else can create that space of more happiness and joy in our life.
Yeah, for sure. Do you practice affirmations?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's a great point that you mentioned. Yeah, affirmations and visualizations both. So affirmations are primarily based on, let's say, if there is a negative experience that you're having. Let's say if there's a conflict with someone that you're experiencing, and then you're constantly thinking about it or creating that, I don't have a good relationship with this person. I hear it a lot when I coach people. So change that into an affirmation and saying that I am experiencing a little tension, which I am working to resolve. So always looking at a situation and reframing it towards an action taking approach. Because when we stay with the same experience of the negative emotion, we don't change. But when we reframe it, we look at the brighter side, and then we align that with certain action, then we certainly start to feel more control over that. And then we now know that, oh, I am going to do this to make this thing better. Yeah. So, and also there's tons and tons of affirmations that you can go on Google and look forward to, especially catering to some of the conflicts around physical health, mental health, your self-worth, your self-confidence, that you can follow through. And also, I also recommend one thing, which is like, you can note down 50 to 60 affirmations, record it in your phone, and listen to them every day. That's magical, and that's the tool that I give to all of my clients that I work with.
Well, Simi Arora, thank you so much here for your time here on ITV Gold. I know I learned a lot, and I hope the viewers did too. One last message to our audience.
One last message to the audience is that live like a caveman for 30 minutes to 1 hour every day. I know this is going to work as magic. We have burdened ourselves unnecessarily. We have been used to of living in the world of transactions. But you, my friend, are born genius. You are born to express your truth. You're born to be here and express whatever you got in your being and share that beautiful consciousness with everybody else. So even if you're feeling disheartened, know that it's just a small phase and it's just gonna go away. Just chill, relax, and enjoy life as is, and do your best and take heart-aligned actions.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you again for your time here on ITV Gold. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Aditi, for having me on the show. It was such a great time. I appreciate you being here and asking wonderful questions.
Of course.